We're continuing our coverage tonight following the death of a Preble County Sheriff's deputy. Now we continue to remember and learn more about Deputy Joshua Hamilton. He and another driver died in that horrific head-on crash yesterday morning, and tonight we're hearing from a classmate of Hamilton's who attended the Greene County Police Academy with him. Jenna Lee Borick had a chance to speak with him tonight. What's something that stuck out to you during that conversation?
Adam, Dorian Eaton, who's now an officer in Elmwood, talked to me about how much Hamilton wanted and helped others succeed. I asked him what he'd missed most about his friend. At a time so difficult, it's the good moments that came to mind.
He was such a funny guy. I mean, anytime we would go through the hardest times in the academy, and he would try to make you laugh somehow or some way, just being goofy or just making the hard times better, because, you know, there's rough times in the academy.
And did he say anything about the other law enforcement departments that have been sharing condolences?
He did. Eaton says it's nice to see Hamilton's name be honored because he did his job and put his life on the line for those he cared about. Back to you, Adam.
All right, Jenna Lee, thank you. Tonight, the sheriff also talking publicly for the first time about this loss and how his office is trying to process what had happened. Lydia Bice spoke with him today.
The two main updates today include the funeral arrangements for Preble County Sheriff's Deputy Joshua Hamilton, and those were released by the Tobias Funeral Home here in Beaver Creek behind me. Those funeral services will take place on Friday and Saturday of this week in Richmond, Indiana. Now, the visitation will be held on Friday evening at the Pentecostal Tabernacle in Richmond from 4 to 8 p.m. The funeral service will be held at that same church on Saturday at 10 a.m. Deputy Hamilton will be laid to rest at a cemetery in Gratis, Ohio, after the funeral service. Today, Preble County Sheriff Mike Simpson sat down with us for the first time since this tragedy, and he told us that this was the first line of duty death in the history of the Preble County Sheriff's Office, and he calls the last couple of days just gut-wrenching.
I'm not aware that we've ever had a line of duty death at our agency. There have been some others in the county back in the and early 1900s of village officials, but this is the first one for here. Yesterday was, like I said, was a gut punch.
Now, the Ohio State Highway Patrol is still investigating Monday's crash. We have not yet heard about funeral arrangements for the other man involved in this crash, Michael Gayhart, but as soon as we do, we'll update you here on air and online at Dayton247now.com.
The lawyer for 56-year-old Darke Sorrells has requested a second opinion on a mental health evaluation. Sorrells is the former DPS paraprofessional accused of assaulting a nonverbal 3-year-old child with autism. Happened at Rosa Parks Early Learning Center. Now, Sorrells will be back in court February 13th for the results of that second evaluation. Police say a man was arrested after a stabbing in Trotwood Sunday night. Officers responded to a call around 8 on Salem Bend Drive about a man chasing a woman and stabbing her. Now, the suspect ran away before police could get there, but was later arrested that same night. The victim suffered life-threatening injuries, we're told, but is expected to survive. A Honda warehouse catching fire tonight in Troy. Miami County Dispatch says that building was evacuated just after 7. Luckily, no injuries out of this. Troy Fire went on to say that the fire itself was on the roof of the building. We're still working to learn the exact extent of the damage there. The cause is still under investigation tonight. I know it's cold when you step outside, but things are going to be changing pretty quickly. Am I right?
Yeah, we have a slow, gradual increase, but we have some above average temperatures.
Okay.
40 is where we should be.
Yep.
46 is what we're looking at tomorrow, but we're also looking at some more sunshine. I know if you're like me and you can't stand the clouds that we get. I love the seasons of Ohio, but I cannot stand the clouds that linger over us in the wintertime. So enjoy some more sunshine across the area tomorrow. Winds will also continue to calm down. We've had some very, very gusty winds the past couple days, really creating some bitterly cold wind chills. So that'll help in that department as well. And we do have some rain in the forecast, so we'll talk about when you can expect that coming up in the 7-day. Now look at the peak wind gusts from today. It was a little breezy out there, but not nearly anything we saw about 2 days ago. But we still recorded a 25-mile-per-hour wind gust in Dayton and Miamisburg, about 22 out towards Urbana and Bellefontaine.
The Colorado Supreme Court ruling former President Donald Trump cannot appear on the state's ballots for next year's election. The court says Trump is ineligible due to his, quote, incitement of the January 6th Capitol riot. A U.S. constitutional provision bars people who have engaged in insurrection from federal office, and the court stayed its decision until January 4th or until the U.S. Supreme Court rules on the case. Now, the Trump campaign says it will swiftly file an appeal to the Colorado Supreme Court decision. In a statement, a campaign spokesperson says the decision is completely flawed and, quote, "We have full confidence that the U.S. Supreme Court will quickly rule in our favor and finally put an end to these un-American lawsuits," end quote. Now, Trump also releasing this statement on his campaign website, saying in part, quote, "We will win this battle, we will win the 2024 election, and we will make America great again." Texas's new law allowing police to arrest migrants who cross the border illegally in Ohio is being challenged by civil rights groups. Governor Greg Abbott, he signed that law yesterday, you may remember. It allows local judges to order those arrested to leave the country. The ACLU and the Texas Civil Rights Project say that law is unconstitutional and preempted by federal law. Abbott seemed prepared for that fight at the bill signing.
The authors of the United States Constitution foresaw a situation when the federal government would be inattentive to states that faced challenges at their borders. And in response, they inserted Article 1, Section 10 to the United States Constitution to empower states to take action to defend themselves.
That law is scheduled to take effect in March. Lawsuits pending, of course. Immigrants would be prosecuted on misdemeanor charges or could agree to leave. Repeat offenders could face felony charges. And the White House is putting the new law on blast. The White House press secretary is saying the legislation demonizes and dehumanizes immigrants.
Look, this is an extreme law that will not and does not make the communities in Texas safer. It just doesn't.
Now, Abbott argues the law is necessary, accusing President Biden of not doing enough to protect the southern border. He expressed confidence the measure would withstand legal challenges. And while the battle rages on, there is a huge surge of migrants crossing the border. The amount nearly tripled than average. A Texas migrant center says it's doing its best it can to deal with the latest surge, but they're not sure it'll be enough. Jordan Elders spoke with the center and has more on their efforts.
Everyone that we've talked to has told us that they've never seen anything quite like this. And all of the people here waiting to be processed are eventually going to have to go somewhere. For a lot of them, that destination will be Mission Border Hope. It's a brand new facility that usually saw between 500 and 1,000 migrants each day, but Border Patrol has warned them that up to 3,000 people could be moving through each day as numbers continue to rise.
We're doing our best. We're serving food, we're ordering more food, we have more staff. The space where we are right now, it's a lot bigger, so we're gonna do our best to serve everybody, and if not, we're gonna serve the most vulnerable.
We know 4,500 people arrived here on Monday, and there are no signs of slowing down. Congressman Henry Cuellar posted this last night saying there are 23,000 migrants in Border Patrol custody, not including the ones that were here waiting and the ones that are here right now. He says there is some concern about a mass movement in Mexico that could bring thousands more people right to this spot here on the U.S. side of the border. Reporting in Eagle Pass, I'm Jordan Elder.
A recall on thousands of air fryers after reports of the product breaking and causing burns. The advice the Consumer Product Safety Commission has for consumers. Then a massive storm on the East Coast, killing 4 people, causing flooding and power outages. We got more information on the aftermath next.
And we'll take a look at that full forecast and let you know what you can expect the rest of your work week. Here's a look at your Eco Plumber Skycam. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
Raising minimum wage, a continuous debate across the states, and Janae Bowens is breaking down tonight the math and why people are pushing for more.
Wealth management advisor for First Financial Group, Randy Jones, says a bump in the minimum wage is a step in the right direction.
I think it's a start. I don't know if it's really enough for everybody.
The question of is it enough might depend on where you live. Michigan's minimum wage will go from $10.10 to $10.33. Now, I did some math. If a minimum wage worker works 40 hours per week the entire year, they'll take home around $19,800. According to research from Go Baking Rates, the living wage for a single person in Michigan is over $50,000.
Going forward in the future, we'll be indexing the minimum wage for the first time ever to inflation, so families can finally start getting ahead.
Now, New York minimum wage workers will see some bumps from $14.20 to $15, but in certain places like New York City, it'll go to $16. Even at $16 per hour, that's a little above $30,700 per year.
For some people, they'll feel that it still needs to be more. For some people, they take what they can get currently.
25 states and Washington, D.C. will raise their minimum wage in 2024. And get this, beginning in April next year, California's minimum wage for their state's fast food workers will increase to $20 per hour, but that's still below what financial experts say is a living wage. In Washington, I'm Janae Bowens.
Empower Brands is recalling over 300,000 of its air fryers for potential burn risks. Now it affects two models. They're on your screen there. It's Power XL dual basket air fryers. The company has received more than 40 reports of the product breaking and 3 reports of burns. The Consumer Product Safety Commission advises consumers to immediately stop using it, contact the manufacturer for a full refund. We now know tonight at least 4 people are dead after a massive storm rocked the East Coast, bringing flooding and power outages. 3 killed in South Carolina, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania. A 4th died in Maine after being struck by a tree. The National Weather Service says the heavy rain and flooding could back up holiday travel. Millions of people are on flood watch, and more than 600,000 were still without power as of this morning. A new report finding extreme heat from wildfires can turn metals found in soil and plants into cancer-causing particles. Researchers say chromium is common in soils across the western U.S., but heat from a wildfire can transform it into a carcinogen called hexavalent chromium. Scientists tested soil from California impacted by wildfires and found toxic chromium levels were around 7 times higher in badly burned areas compared to areas that were spared.
All right, look at satellite radar right now showing a few clouds out there, but relatively still not a terrible evening. Pretty quiet across much of the nation compared to what we have been seeing. A little cloudy across much of the central part of the country as well, down towards Oklahoma, Kansas, and across the great state of Texas. Now, next weather maker through the next 24 to 48 hours or so, 6 a.m. we're looking at a few clouds out there. Tomorrow, mostly sunny conditions, a few clouds going to linger through the day, but overall a nice day, kind of similar to today. Looking at your Thursday, much cloudier. We could see some sun try to fight its way through, but generally speaking, a much more overcast sky expected through your day. Still not totally bad, but we do have some rain coming in the 7-day forecast.
U.S. officials believe there are still about 8 Americans being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby says Hamas and other groups are believed to be holding about 140 hostages total.
I don't have an update for you on the progress of talks to try to get another humanitarian pause in place so that we can get hostages out. We continue to work this literally by the hour.
Now, Kirby says it's important that the rest of the world understand what's at stake, saying Israel has a right to defend itself against Hamas threats following the October 7th attacks. The FBI saying hundreds of false bomb threats that were emailed to Jewish facilities across the U.S. over the weekend originated from outside the country. CNN reporting those behind the threats appear to be connected. None of them have actually involved explosives or any credible risk of harm to people. The Anti-Defamation League says more than 400 Jewish synagogues, schools, and other institutions were threatened.
The president has been very clear, and I've said this many times right here at this podium, anti-Semitism, threats of intimidation or violence of any kind is unacceptable.
The FBI says more than 30 of its field offices around the country are now investigating these threats. Also, another delay for a vote on a UN Security Council Gaza humanitarian resolution. It's now set for tomorrow. That resolution calls for a halt in the fighting in order to provide more humanitarian aid deliveries to Gaza. That vote has now been pushed back twice in order to allow for more negotiations. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said the U.S. was still working through the modalities of it.
It's important for us that the rest of the world understand what's at stake here and what Hamas did on the 7th of October and how Israel has a right to defend itself against those threats.
Now, earlier this month, the U.S. vetoed a similar Security Council resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza that was backed by almost all other council members. All right, here's a live look from our Eco Plumber Sky Cam over Beaver Creek as it's another cold evening, but things are going to get warmer. Let's check in with Tim.
Yes, Adam, it is very cold out here. Definitely brisk is what I would call it. 31 degrees right now, right here in Dayton, 27 as you head out towards Richmond, 29 in Springboro, and 28 down towards Wilmington. Much of it's going to drop well into the 20s tonight, but it already feels like it across the region. Wind chills around 23 in Dayton, 18 is what it feels like out towards Richmond, 22 up towards Springfield, and 23 in Wapakoneta. Now the next couple of days you can expect temperatures just a couple degrees above average. 40 degrees is where we should be for this time of year. Looking at the next few days, a slow gradual increase, and we're talking temperatures in the mid-50s by the end of your weekend.
Students from Sinclair Community College about to make history as they participate in the new Bachelor's of Science in Nursing degree. We've got all you need to know about that groundbreaking opportunity. And Miami's Burke City leaders talking about the future of a popular spot in town. What's going to happen next with the Sycamore Aquatic Center next. You're watching Dayton 24/7 Now. AES Ohio donating more than $16,000 to wounded warriors today as part of their AES Restaurant Group Roundup program. That operates at 174 Arby's restaurants across 16 states. The team at each restaurant chooses a local charity to support, and the community can round up their order totals or donate $1 to the chosen nonprofit. The Tip City location, they chose the Wounded Warrior Project.
We support multiple charities locally here in Dayton and throughout, again, the 16 states that we support. But our managers, they just came in and said, you know, we need to get behind veterans, and the Wounded Warriors is a great organization that we wanted to support.
All of the Wounded Warrior Project's programs and services are free, and this donation will go toward helping with those. And you can learn about everything the organization has to offer and how they can help you at woundedwarriorproject.org. And remember, it's never too late to ask for help. Montgomery County celebrating multiple environmental milestones with a Bring Your Green luncheon today. This year, the city of Dayton achieved the LEED Platinum certification. Kettering established a sustainability commission. The Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission initiated the area's first ever regional climate action planning, and Five Rivers Metro Parks committed to becoming a carbon negative agency.
This is forever. You know, keep it going day by day. Each of us, if we do something, it all adds up to be a lot.
She encourages everyone to make being green their 2024 resolution. You can get tips on how you can become more sustainable at home and in the community at bringyourgreen.com. History in the making at Sinclair. A group of students will be the first to attempt the new Bachelor of Science in Nursing completion degree. The college has more than 40 students are aiming to meet the critical need for nurses locally and nationally. That program, what it does, it allows nurses with associate degrees to advance without leaving the workforce or taking on unnecessary debt. The first group of students, they start classes in January. The Miamisburg City Council discussing what will happen next with the Sycamore Aquatic Center. Last month, the city announced the 2024 swimming season would be canceled because the facility needs critical infrastructure repairs.
We have put together a video to inform the public of our efforts for the past 2 years, what we've learned, what we've seen, and what the next steps are. We've also put out a request for proposals for architects, engineers, and aquatic engineering firms for a facility redesign as well as a piping infrastructure replacement. So we're going to evaluate those two options over the next 6 months or so to make the right decision for the future of the facility.
Davis went on to say the Aquatic Center is an important part of the community and that they are committed to getting it back open as soon as possible. Well, the Buckeyes head coach recruiting for tomorrow's signing day and prepping for the Cotton Bowl. What key players have to say as they prep for that big game. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
The Dayton 24/7 Now News app, brought to you by the Jeff Schmidt Auto Group.
The Buckeyes head coach Ryan Day has been very busy. He's trying to keep recruits ahead of tomorrow's signing day, working the portal to bring in new Buckeyes, and of course finding time to prepare for the Cotton Bowl, which is just 10 days away tonight. Kellyanne Stitz spoke with some of the key players getting ready for the game.
Quarterback Devin Brown is prepared to steer the ship, ready to battle with his brothers in the Cotton Bowl.
One thing that I've always said is I'm a competitive guy and that I would like to go out and compete, so it doesn't matter what's going on. I'm always just going to, sink all my chips in it here. That's why I came here, was to be the best I can be here.
Brown saw some action this season as a backup to Kyle McCord, used in the Wildcat and mop-up duty, throwing for 197 yards and 2 touchdowns, while also adding 35 yards on the ground and a rushing